Hello and welcome to more 2025 to 2026 state governments and officials. This time we're looking at the state of Texas. So, yeah, let's hop into this here. If I can get my mouse to properly work. There we go. I need you to go up. Not that far up. It does jumps, and then it's like scoot, scoot, scoot. Come on, work with me here. There we go. At least now we're on the browser window. State of Texas, the Lone Star State. There's where it sits in the United States. Capital city, Austin, even though the largest city is Houston. But the largest metro urban area is Dallas Fort Worth because they're so close together. So, yeah. And so combined, they are the biggest metro area. Let's see. It is the most populous state of the South in the United States and borders Louisiana to the east, Arkansas to the northeast, Oklahoma to the north, New Mexico to the west, and an international border with the Mexican states of Chihuahua, Coahuila, Nuevo León, and Tamaulipas to the south and southwest. Texas has a coastline on the Gulf of Mexico to the southeast, covering 268,596 square miles and about 31 million residents. As of 2024, it is the second largest U.S. state by area and population. So remember, the biggest by area is Alaska, but the biggest by population, California. Again, nicknamed the Lone Star State for the single star on its flag, which is symbolic as its former status as an independent country, the Republic of Texas. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the Really? You want to do this stupidity with me? The Constitution of Texas. It sets it up so that there's three branches of government, just like the U.S. The document that establishes the structure and function of the government of Texas. And it was adopted February 15th, 1876, and is actually the seventh constitution in Texas's history, including the Mexican Constitution of 1872, and the previous six were adopted in 1827 while Texas was still part of Mexico and the state of Coahuila y Tejas. It is in 1836, the Constitution of the Republic of Texas. 1845, when it became a U.S. state. 1861, at the beginning of the Civil War. And 1866, at the end of the American Civil War. And again in 1869. But when did we say 1876 is when the modern one came into effect? They've held conventions, to constitutional conventions in 1861, 1866, 1868 to 69, and 1875. Now, the only ones to really pay attention to for us, since we're looking at America, 1836, when it became independent from Mexico, but not yet a U.S. state. 1845, when it became a U.S. state. 1861, at the beginning of the Civil War. 1866, at the end of the Civil War. Civil War is a point you'll see a lot of the breaks and everything come in changes for some states in their constitutions. So 1869 and finally 1876. All right. As we spoke of, 3 branches of government: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. Under the Texas Constitution, and has let's see, of course there's a state government, county, municipals, city, so yeah. Austin, the capital, as we've already talked about. Apparently it's supposed to resemble Washington, D.C., but is faced in Texas pink granite and is topped with the statue of the Goddess of Liberty, holding aloft a 5-point star. And it's apparently 7 feet taller than the United States National Capitol. This is in effect talking about the Capitol building. So it's said to resemble the one in D.C. And as you can see, it's the building, and it has the conical top just like the United States Capitol has, but it's covered in pink granite, giving it a different color. The executive branch. It has a few officials that are elected. Governor Greg Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, Attorney General Slimeball. I have no like of this man. He's done so much evil. Ken Paxton. It says the acting comptroller, Kelly Hancock. The land commissioner, Don Buckingham. Agricultural commissioner, Sid Miller. There's 2 other positions, which agriculture commissioner I think is not elected by the people, but I think that and the railroad commissioners, which is supposed to be 3 altogether. Yeah, there's a third name. They're elected, but they're not part of the executive branch. Uh, Although elected statewide, the executive department does not include the 3 railroad commissioners nor the agriculture commissioner. But with that, let's look at this here. Your governor for Texas, Greg Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. I don't know why it doesn't have his image there, but anyway. Attorney General Ken Paxton, Acting Comptroller Kelly Hancock, Commissioner of the Texas General Land Office, Dr. Don Buckingham. And then the 2 not technically in the executive department, but still listed among them. Sid Miller for the Department of Agriculture, and then your 3 railroad commissioners, Christy Craddock, Jim Wright, and Wayne Christian. But with that, let's take a deeper look inside the governor. I will note that I tried looking for the cabinet. There's a bunch of departments and stuff, but I didn't see anything as far as the official list of cabinet. Because there was like 90, 100 or so departments. I'm like, usually it's just in the teens to high 20s, the number of departments that are the cabinet. But I was like, this can't be every one of them. So, yeah. Anyway. Chief Executive Officer of the state of Texas, the governor. That's the governors of Texas. We want to start looking back with the Texas Revolution, making it an independent nation on its own. Your first president or head of the Texas government, Henry Smith. He would serve in that position. I'm so tired of this stupid mouse. What it does is insane. Henry Smith. He would be impeached as governor. Really, dude? First American-born governor of the Mexican territory of Texas, and briefly presided over the revolution there. Serving during the Battle of Goliad and the Battle of San Jacinto. He is one of 4 governors from Garrard County, Kentucky. Interesting. And then he was followed up by James W. Robinson. Yeah, politician in what became the U.S. states of Texas and California. So, That was during the Revolution. Following, you have the Republic of Texas, David G. Burnett. Early politician for the Republic, serving as interim president in 1836 and the second vice president of the Republic of Texas, 1839 to 41. And the Secretary of State after it officially became a U.S. state in 1846. So yeah, he has a lot of history for Texas in the early years. But yeah. Then that's followed by Sam Houston. The same one the city of Houston is named after. He was a governor and a U.S. senator and served Tennessee as governor and representative. So yeah, a man with a lot of political history. Played a prominent role as well in the Texas Revolution, bringing it its freedom from Mexico, serving as the first and third president of the Republic of Texas and one of the first two individuals to represent Texas in the U.S. Senate. Then we have Mirabeau B. Lamar, American attorney, politician, poet, political figure during the Texas Republic era, served as the second president for the Republic after Sam Houston from 1838 to 1841. He was also a minister to Nicaragua. Sam Houston back again. So we already talked about him. He serves another term, and the final one during the Republic days is Anson Jones. And he is an American medical doctor, businessman, member of Congress for the Republic, and fourth and last president of the Republic of Texas. And then we get to the state of Texas. But yeah, let me scroll on up here. There we go. Come on, work with me. I'm sorry, guys. Now, as a state, the first governor is J. Pinckney Henderson. And you notice it says Democrat, because I keep trying to explain this to people. They changed political ideologies. There's so many people who try to say, no, they're the same. No. There was a clear ideological evolution in the 1900s where we saw the change in the two parties. James Pinckney Henderson was a American and Texas lawyer, politician, and soldier, first governor of Texas as an official state. He would be followed by George Tyler Wood, military officer, politician, second governor. He'd be followed by Peter Hansborough Bell, military officer, politician, third governor. and represented the state for 2 terms in the House of Representatives. Then we get James W. Henderson, surveyor, politician, 4th governor. Then we get Elisha M. Peace, politician, 5th governor, and 13th governor for the state of Texas. So he would come back later and serve. Hardin Richard Runnels, politician, 6th governor, for only 1 term, but notably the only person to ever defeat Sam Houston in a political contest. Houston would defeat him 2 years later, but yeah, because we see Sam Houston come back, serving as an independent. So yeah, we've already talked about him. Edward Clark, 8th governor, and it was under him the Civil War would start. Then we get Francis Lubbock, likely who Lubbock, Texas is named after. Businessman, slaveholder, politician, plays a significant role in Texas history, though he is a South Carolina native. He was a key player in Texas politics, serving 6th lieutenant governor and the 9th governor. So he was lieutenant governor and governor. Then 10th we get Pendleton Murrah, the 10th governor of Texas. And he was Texas still during the Civil War. Andrew Jackson Hamilton, militarily appointed. You can see the name Andrew Jackson because there just was a lot of people who were big fans of the way Jackson did things when he was president, and so he was still highly thought of by many people during that era. Really? But anyway, Andrew Jackson Hamilton was an American politician and lawyer, the 11th governor. And he would be during the era of Reconstruction. And that would bring us to James W. Throckmorton, politician, 12th governor, served during Reconstruction, U.S. congressman. So, yeah. And then we get Peace again, like I said, 13th governor. Then there would be a vacancy for a few months. Yeah. But there would finally be an election and get a new governor. Republican, remember, we're still under Reconstruction when Republicans were trying to make things come together much easier and make sure the recently freed African Americans would get treated fairly and properly. So yeah, first Republican governor of Texas, Edmund J. Davis. Then we get Richard Koch, back to Democrats, Richard B. Hubbard, Orrin Milo Roberts, John Ireland, Lawrence Sullivan Ross, Jim Hogg, Charles A. Culberson, and, to bring us into the 1900s, Joseph D. Sayers, S.W.T. Lanham, Thomas Mitchell Campbell, Oscar Branch Colquitt, James E. Ferguson, William P. Hobby, Pat Morris Neff. Then we get our first female governor of Texas, in the 1920s, Miriam A. Ferguson. Dan Moody, Ross S. Sterling. Miriam Ferguson is back for another round. Then James Burr v. Allred. W. Lee O'Daniel. Coke R. Stevenson. Buford H. Jester. Alan Shivers. Price Daniel. John Connolly. He's got a bit of history, notably being the governor that was in the car when Kennedy was shot and assassinated. So, yeah. Preston Smith, Dolph Briscoe, and finally we get the second Republican governor of Texas, Bill Clements. You can see how now things are changing. It was Democrat for so long, and now we're getting back into Republicans. Bill Clements, another Democrat. Mark White, Bill Clements again for a second term. Ann Richards, another Democrat. And then I think we get a string of just Republicans here. George W. Bush, who would go on, of course, to be president. Rick Perry, he would serve as Secretary of something during the first Trump term. And then, of course, Greg Abbott, your current governor of Texas. So, yeah. So, look at the governors in the executive branch of Texas. With that, let's go to the legislature. The Texas State Legislature, bicameral, 2 houses in the one body. Which, yeah, 2 chambers or houses, as I done said. The House has 150 members, while the Senate has 31. The Speaker of the House presides over the House, and the Lieutenant Governor presides over the Senate. So it does have the Lieutenant Governor serving in a row like some states do, other states don't, but yeah. It has power of the purse, how the money is meant to be doled out, as the U.S. Congress is written to do. Although Trump had just blatantly out and out ignored that, among a whole host of other things he's ignored about our own Constitution. But yeah. They convene regular sessions at noon on the second Tuesday in January in odd number years. The maximum duration of a regular session is 140 days. Governor can convene the legislature so at other times. So the legislature meets in odd number of years, but the governor can convene them in even number of years, it sounds like, is what it's trying to say. Special sessions is what they are. They're used for legislation the governor deems critically important in state affairs. These sessions are limited to a period of 30 days, during which the legislature is permitted to pass laws only on subjects submitted by the governor in calling for the session. But he can do it as many times as desired, while the Texas legislature doesn't have the ability to, by itself, convene special sessions. Okay, so that having been looked at, let's look at the Texas legislature a little more in depth. Your Senate President, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, the Senate President pro tempore, Charles Perry, so the top ranking senator from the Senate. So they serve just under the Lieutenant Governor, who is also the Senate President. House Speaker Dustin Burrows, and apparently they have a Speaker pro tempore, Joe Moody. The Senate, 31 members, current composition, 20 Republicans to 11 Democrats. The House, surprisingly, not as broken as you'd think, being Texas is supposed to be a red state, daggone it. 88 Republicans to 62 Democrats. But, if you think about it, Austin is supposed to be somewhat more left than the rest of the state, and it's got a larger Hispanic population, which can often vote left-leaning, so, yeah. So it's pretty interesting there. Established upon creation as a state. Blah, blah, blah. It is only one of 4 states, and the largest, that doesn't hold annual legislative sessions. Qualifications. Half of the Senate membership is elected every 2 years in even-numbered years, with the exception that all the Senate seats are up for election after the first legislature, following the decennial census every 10 years, in order to reflect the newly redrawn districts. That is supposed to take place in years ending with 2, but you know, Trump had them break that last year. Say, I need y'all to redraw. After the initial election, the Senate is divided into by a lot into 2 classes. One class having re-election after 2 years, and the other re-election after 4, so 4-year terms staggered. Bum, 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 bum. Representatives are elected for 2-year terms that are held in even-numbered years. Neither may, for the time they were originally elected, hold any civil office under the state that was created during that term, nor for any such office whose compensation was increased during such time. Furthermore, judges and their clerks and any person holding a lucrative office under the U.S., the state, or a foreign government cannot, while remaining in those offices, be a member of the legislature. Tax collectors or those entrusted with public money must receive a discharge for those funds before they are eligible to the legislature. But yeah, that's a look at the legislature of Texas. Now, we will look at the judicial system. If I can get the mouse to frickin' work. I don't know why it's got such a bug up its butt. The judicial system of Texas has a reputation as one of the most complex in the U.S., with many layers and many overlapping jurisdictions. It has two courts of last resort, the Texas Supreme Court, which is usually your last resort, which hears civil cases, and the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. Interesting. Partisan elections, except for some municipal branches, choose the judges at levels of the judiciary. The governor fills vacancies by appointment, and then they can be reelected upon time of election. Municipal courts are the most active, with the county and district courts handling most of their cases and often sharing the same buildings. Where you at, mouse? So yeah. With that, let's hop over here to judiciary. Why did you move all the way up there? Now, the courts. So it is the only state besides Oklahoma to have a bifurcated appellate system at the highest level. Texas Supreme Court handles civil matters, and the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals criminal matters. The Texas Supreme Court of Texas hears appeals involving civil matters, as we've already said. Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, criminal matters. Then it has a regular Court of Appeals. 14 of them, as a matter of fact. Really, mouse? Come on now. Let's see. First and 14th Courts of Appeals, blah, blah. And you have District Courts of Appeals. Stop. The list of them showing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Then you have the district courts. What else do we have as courts? Judicial district. You've also got private courts handling probate matters. In 10 of the 15 largest counties, the legislature has established one or more statutory probate courts. These specialized courts handle probate, guardianship, trust, and mental health. There's constitutional county courts. Courts serving the county. Statutory county courts at law. Municipal courts are usually your city courts. Justice of the peace courts. There we go. Those are the list of courts for Texas. Now let's look at the courts a bit. Each separately. The Supreme Court of Texas. 9 positions, so 1 Chief Justice, 8 Associate Justices. Court of last resort for civil matters. But that also includes juvenile delinquency cases. Since there is a trial court of criminal appeals, it just handles adult cases. Juvenile delinquency is considered under the civil cases for the Supreme Court of Texas. Established in 1846 when it became a U.S. state. To serve on the court, a candidate must be at least 35 years of age, a citizen of Texas, licensed to practice law in Texas, and must have practiced law or have been a lawyer and a judge of a court record together for at least 10 years. The clerk of the court currently is Blake A. Hawthorne, who is appointed by the justices and serves a 4-year term, which is renewable. And here are your current justices for the Supreme Court of Texas. Chief Justice Jimmy Blaylock, Associate Justices Deborah Lehrman, John P. Devine, J. Brett Busby, Jane Bland, Rebecca Huddle, Evan Young, James P. Sullivan, and Kyle D. Hawkins. So, yeah. Now, let's go over to the other side and look at the criminal court of criminal... Freaking mouse. Court of Criminal Appeals. There we go. It was actually established in 1891, about 50 years later. Almost 50 years. So, last resort on criminal matters. It has a judge and 8 associate justices. And your current judges for the Court of Criminal Appeals: presiding judge David J. Shank, with associate justices Burt Richardson, Kevin Yeary, David Newell, Mary Lou Keel, Scott Walker, Jesse McClure, Lee Finley, and Tina G. Parker. And they're likely the same way as far as being elected by the people as the Supreme Court, since they're both technically courts of last appeal. Or last resort, as it said. But anyway. Numerous justices, and depending on the district they serve, they've got so many justices per court. And they mentioned some of them here because they don't always have this huge amount as the Texas Supreme Court and Texas Criminal Court of Appeals. They looks like were formed in 1891. The Courts of Appeals, relocation, jurisdictional changes, shifts in courts. Here's where the jurisdictions sit and where they cover the locations where they sit. Amarillo, El Paso, Texarkana, Dallas-Fort Worth, Eastland, Waco, Tyler, Austin, San Antonio, Beaumont, Houston, Corpus Christi, and Edinburgh. There's how each district is set up. So we saw their seats and see where they're set up. So yeah. Goes over the justices for each court of appeals. But we won't dig too deep in that. I didn't see anything on requirements. Might have looked over it. Might have been included somewhere else. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, so they're elected to 6-year terms in elections, but are initially appointed by the governor to fill vacancies and then can run as incumbents in the next election. So, yeah. And that will bring us to the last court to look at if I can get my mouse to work with me. The District Courts of Texas. Part of the judicial system and the courts of general jurisdiction. 472 of them altogether, each with a single judge, who are elected 2 4-year terms. Original jurisdiction with all felony criminal cases, divorce cases, land title disputes, election contests, civil matters in which at least $200 is disputed or claimed in damages, as well as other matters. Most of the district courts consider both criminal and civil cases, but the counties with many courts each may specialize in civil, criminal, juvenile, or family law matters. So, yeah. Counties containing the most district courts. Harris County, which has the city of Houston, holds 61 district courts. And remember, Houston is the largest city in Texas, so. Then you got Dallas with 32, or Dallas County, which has Dallas. Bexar County, which has San Antonio, has 27. Tarrant County, which has Fort Worth, has 24. And Travis County, which has Austin, has 21. So, yeah, quite a few counties served by each district. And they show the list here. That's a heck of a list, because I think we said there was, 400 and some of them? Yeah, look how many district courts. God. It's just where there's so many counties and everything in Texas, so much land area. $500, 526. But with that, we've looked at the state of Texas and its government and officials. So, that said, thank you all, remember to educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing. Ask them to cite the sources and don't accept trash sources. Sources that haven't been fully vetted, are from weird places, or is just propaganda. Don't watch out for that stuff. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.